What is the criteria used by the embassy to expedite an interview? Chris.
Sure. So the question was expediting consulate interviews. Essentially, we're seeing them happen in two instances. There may be others, but there's two that we're seeing at our office. I don't know if any of the other attorneys have had other experiences, but the two situations we are seeing is one is that there's some American national interest. And so we have seen a number of COVID healthcare workers, their cases get moved to the top of the list and expedited. We've probably just in the last week or two, even out of Manila actually, had maybe a half a dozen to 10 visas issued in Europe and in Manila. So that's one incident, which is if we can prove that there's an American need for the worker. And the second incident that I haven't seen in this period, but I've seen it in other periods, and I have seen some chatter amongst other attorneys, is when there's an aging out situation, which is to say that the child, maybe, so it's the nurse and the spouse are coming to the U.S., and maybe they have a child who's approaching 21. In those incidences, we've seen the embassies move that case up so that the child can enter the U.S. before 21 and therefore activate their green card and not what we call aging out, which would mean, of course, that if the child is over 21, then they're no longer eligible for the green card because they're no longer considered a dependent. I don't know if anybody else has seen any other reasons. One thing I can tell you that I don't think we've seen is just some sort of desire to come or some economic reason. My experience, at least what I'm seeing online, is that those aren't being looked at favorably. But again, I'll let Jacob or Carl chime in.
Yeah, we had can you hear me, guys?
Yes, yeah. We can hear you.
Yeah, we had a couple of age out cases from India recently that were prioritized, Mumbai. And so I mean, they definitely seem to be trying to help in that respect. And I had one NIW in Europe that was a researcher that was working on some sort of vaccine type of related technology. And they just let him, take priority, even though him and his family. So, I mean, it's isolated, but I agree with Chris that, it's not a policy. It just, it happens on a case by case.
Paul, have you seen much of the same or anything different?
No, I think Chris and Jacob said that very well.
Okay, good. Chris and Jacob, you both mentioned Europe. We have another question actually here from Rose. If somebody's traveling from Europe, do they need to get the 212 waiver? And if so, how does somebody go about that?
Well, it would depend on their case if they would require a 212 waiver. It would depend what kind of visa they're seeking to obtain. I would certainly say that the simple answer is that that's probably not something someone wants to do on their own. They'll probably want to contact an attorney to really look specifically at their case to see sort of what visa they're applying. Are there other visa options available to them? And then if they're subject to a waiver like the 212 waiver, that the attorney can help them craft and process to run that waiver. I would doubt very highly that anyone can do that on their own.
Okay, so if somebody had, so Rose, in that circumstance, please consult your lawyer about your specific situation.